Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Tales of Herding Gods based on novel. So let's start. When he was halfway through his chant, his heart suddenly shook. He felt like there was some unfamiliar knowledge in his mind. When he subconsciously used it, his devil language became even more ancient and cryptic. The devil chi around him became thicker and thicker, purer and purer. It rolled and spread throughout the swamp like a sea of pitch black. The gate of heaven influence also became more and more majestic as it stood in the sea of devil chi. With creaks, the incomparably heavy door slowly opened up. In the darkness, shrieks could be heard. Incomparably miserable ghost-like wails and wolf-like howls of countless spirit poured out from the gate of heaven influence. Qin Mu jumped in shock. So many spirits. They flooded out from Yudu and gathered in the huge swamp. In an instant, it was full of phosphorescence, making it look like it was filled with bright stars. They flew around in the darkness of the devil chi and tunneled into the corpses. Countless corpses stood up and looked around in a daze. Tens of thousands of beings had risen in the desolate swamp. Some stood on the water, some floated in the sky, and some sat on the ground in a daze. Who is disturbing the peace of Yudu? Qin Mu was still casting his spell when a loud voice rang in his mind. It blew him away, and he became muddle-headed. His magic power was instantly cut off, and the gate of heaven influence behind him swallowed up the devil chi like a whale swallowing the heaven and earth. Wind swept all of the devil chi back into Yudu. Qin Mu hurriedly dispersed his Saturn sovereign's form. Never would he have expected that gate of heaven influence would remain open and not close. Spots of lamplights came from the darkness in Yudu. They were boats with barn lanterns. Qin Mu's scalp went numb, and he hurriedly reversed his technique, but the gate of heaven influence still didn't close. The boats sailed over from the darkness and passed through the gate of heaven influence. I remember who I am. Beside him, the skeleton suddenly cried out in delight and laughed loudly. I remember now. Celestial Heaven Southern Dipper Division, 7 kills Star Sovereign. I was under the order of Founding Emperor to guard Supreme Emperor Heaven and its Provincial Governor Wei Liao. Where's my armor? Where's my battle axe? Boom! The swamp under Qin Mu suddenly rolled and boundless divine light rushed into the sky. Pieces of battle armor broke through the water and the ground. They flew out from the bottom of the swamp. Clank, clank, clank. Crisp sounds of collision rang out as pieces of broken battle armor covered the body of the skeleton beside Qin Mu. Even a broken helmet flew over to cover his skull. Qin Mu was dumbfounded. Suddenly, a huge mountain split apart in the swamp, and a few broken divine weapon pieces rushed out. They assembled in midair and formed a huge battle axe that came swirling over. The skeleton stretched his hand out and grabbed it. The battle axe represented the authority of Celestial Emperor. On the left was an axe, and on the right was a knife, while on the top was a sharp spear tip with a dragon marking coiling around it. Once the skeleton caught the battle axe, his world-shaking aura burst forth. He raised his weapon and gave it a swing, crumbling the gate of heaven influence behind Qin Mu. He crushed it with brute force and broke the path of Yudu's messengers of death. He then roared with anger, "Where are my soldiers?" The devil chi in the darkness had dispersed, and countless skeletons stood on the surface of the swamp while looking at him quietly. Suddenly, world-shaking shouts came from all of the corpses. "General, we are here." The skeleton laughed loudly and asked toward the sky, "Where is our majesty?" He waited for a long time, but no one replied to him. After a moment, Qin Mu said, "Provincial Governor, 20,000 years have passed since Founding Emperor era." In a daze, the skeleton lowered his head to look at him. He muttered, 20,000 years. Qin Mu's expression filled with pain. It's been 20,000 years. You guys have been dead for 20,000 years. That hump. The skeleton sat down and muttered to himself, 20,000 years, how did it become like this? The blood we spilled, the lives we risked to stop the enemies. Yet we still not managed to protect our era. Qin Mu sighed. The broken soul of provincial governor is undying and your fighting spirit will live on forever. Today, I have awoken your broken souls and broken spirits, disturbing your peace. You've now returned to the world of the living, but I don't know what I can do about it. Since provincial governor was the commander of Supreme Emperor Heaven during founding emperor era, I believe you won't create trouble for the people. If I live to go back, I will ask King Yama if he could take you guys in. May provincial governor restrain his soldiers to this ominous land. Myself, I need to continue forward. He bade farewell and turned to leave. The skeleton was still sitting there dispiritedly, and the will-o'-the-wisps in his eyes flickered as he muttered, 20,000 years, how did it become like this? At the borders of the ominous land, more and more pursuing devils appeared. Soon, there were close to 1,000 devil divine arts practitioners gathered there. However, no one dared to step into the ominous land. After a moment, a violent gale suddenly blew over and stopped. A great general appeared in front of the numerous divine arts practitioners and examined the ominous land. General Xiao Luo. Numerous devils bowed in greeting, feeling both surprised and delighted. The devil general waved his hand and said, "My master Fu Riluo ordered me to chase after Qin Mu while in command of you guys. Now, where is that Qin Mu? He has entered the ominous land." Xiao Luo frowned slightly. He was about to give the order to enter when devil chi poured out from the depths of the ominous land, creating a devil sea. A huge door stood upright, looking extremely strange. Astonished, Xiao Luo hurriedly stopped. After a moment, that sea of devil chi vanished without a trace and the huge door also disappeared. Ominous land is truly strange and unpredictable, Xiao Luo muttered irresolutely. After a moment, he said with a low voice, "That brat will probably die after barging into this place, but master gave the order to bring no matter if he's alive or dead, so we need to capture him. Soldiers, listen, follow me into this ominous land." The 1,000 divine arts practitioners received the command and followed him into the ominous land. Qin Mu was walking through the swamp when he heard the sound of fighting behind him. The shouts were deafening, but they didn't last long. Peace returned shortly, and he had no idea what had happened. This place is truly strange, Qin Mu shook his head, having no idea that he was the biggest mystery in the whole swamp. What's stranger is that when I was executing Soul Guide, words of the devil language that I had never learned before appeared in my mind. Qin Mu frowned. The sudden knowledge in his head was still there, and it was a kind of extremely ancient language. His heart stirred slightly, and he took up Saturn's sovereign's true form. Gate of Heaven influence appeared behind him, and the apparition of an ancient book took shape in his hand. Qin Mu composed himself and stretched his hand to open the ancient book. When the writing entered his eyes, he immediately felt like the scribbles were rapidly reforming themselves. Every one of the incomparably strange symbols immediately gained meaning as though he had memorized them by heart. Qin Mu was in a daze. The book had been written in Yudu language, and he had absolutely no knowledge about its writing system. Dutian Devil King had known a little and taught him a phrase which was Gate of Heaven influence. But he had even lied to him, which almost resulted in Qin Mu dying in Yudu. As for the writings in the book, Dutian Devil King had never taught him them. Yet now he understood all of them and was fluent in the language without studying as though he'd always known it. This ominous land is indeed extremely strange. I couldn't even recognize the words in this book, yet now I can actually read them. The writings on the first page look like a technique, yet they are not like those of a cultivation technique. They might contain some strange knowledge regarding the soul, but it doesn't seem like it either. They are like a divine art. Qin Mu was astonished to no end. The Yudu language in the book was just too strange. It was the first time he had encountered such weird writing that was like those of a technique yet not, like simple knowledge yet not, like a divine art yet not one either. He hesitated for a moment, but he couldn't resist it. He began reading aloud what was written on the first page. His tone was cryptic and profound, with a wonderful rhythm to it. The writings couldn't be expressed with his language because humans simply didn't have similar phrases. Even the meaning was impossible to express, so he could only use Yudu language itself to do so. Qin Mu had just read the first sentence when his soul began palpitating. The vital chi in his body changed, turning into devil chi. Suddenly, waves of sinister wind blew past and gloomy clouds came to hang above his head. The swamp started to churn around him. Qin Mu immediately stopped and looked around. Everything turned back to normal. He continued to read, and the wind returned. The water in the swamp also churned once again like a boiling pot. The gloomy clouds gathered above his head and turned into a swirling whirlpool which attracted devil chi from all directions. A portion of it was like a flood dragon with its tail hanging down as it floated in the center of the whirlpool. Qin Mu's mind trembled. The devil chi had already entered his spirit embryo divine treasure from the heart of his brows and started to merge with the spirit embryo with the power of his voice. The spirit embryo then returned the favor, and the devil chi flowed grandiosely through his 5 elements and 6 directions divine treasures. Even the sun, moon, and stars were tainted by the devil chi and became dim. As Qin Mu continued to read the ancient book, skeletons stood up from the swamp around him. There were also quite a number of corpses that climbed up from beneath the water. He stopped in a hurry from astonishment. He closed the ancient book and dispersed his Saturn sovereign true form to look around carefully. The moment his voice stopped, the corpses and skeletons collapsed back down. Too strange, this ominous land is too strange. Qin Mu composed himself and decided to leave as soon as possible. Maybe if I leave this ominous land, the Yudu words in my head will vanish and I won't recognize the writings in the book anymore. My cultivation seems to have risen slightly. He examined his cultivation and couldn't help becoming astonished. In just a short while, it had actually increased by quite a bit. He had established access between 6 directions divine treasures and 7 stars divine treasure, which made his cultivation extremely dense and not any weaker than that of an expert of celestial being realm. However, the density of his cultivation also caused him to become slightly slower in advancing through his realm. Yet in just a short while, he felt like his cultivation had actually increased by a lot. This kind of advancement could only be described as terrifying. Something is wrong, something is wrong. There's definitely something wrong with this place. There's definitely something strange about the ancient book as well. Qin Mu examined himself in detail and finally found what was wrong. There was actually a shut door in his body. It stood opposite of his spirit embryo divine treasure. It was another spirit embryo divine treasure. This doesn't seem to be right. Isn't it said that everyone only has one spirit embryo divine treasure? Why do I have a second one? I'm also not 2 people. I think no one has told me that humans are not able to have 2 spirit embryo divine treasure. Yes, that's definitely the upside of having overlord body. Qin Mu pushed the explanation of another spirit embryo divine treasure to his overlord body and stopped worrying about it. He roused his vital chi to bombard the door, and a gap opened up. Pure devil chi poured out and merged with his vital chi. Moments later, strange devil voices came from the door and pushed back his cultivation. He immediately stopped. This spirit embryo is the divine treasure of the devil path and not the god path. I have once heard a mysterious god voice and now it's the devil voices that pushed back my cultivation, not letting me open my spirit embryo divine treasure. I should ask village chief since he understands overlord body the most. He will definitely be able to answer my doubts. Qin Mu temporarily put away this matter and raised his head to look around his surroundings. The provincial governor who had pointed out the direction for him had said that he only needed to walk toward the east to get out of the ominous land. The problem with that was that the vastness of the swamp surpassed Qin Mu's estimation. He oriented himself once more and began walking. After some time, he had covered 1,000 miles yet he still wasn't out the huge swamp. In that time, he saw over 100 lakes of all sizes. They were traces of ancient battles. When Qin Mu had approached one, he'd felt a terrifying vibration coming from the water. These lakes are traces of fights between the gods and devils. Qin Mu was careful and didn't go closer. The power of the ancient gods and devils' divine arts was still around, resting at the bottom of the lake. It was very unstable, and terrifying things would happen if he stepped onto the lake. But right then, he saw an even stranger sight. Multicolored lights rose from the lake, and a tinkling came from it. The sound reminded him of treasures colliding, which was a very pleasant noise. Qin Mu stopped walking and looked around. He saw the multicolored light becoming thicker and thicker. He could faintly see lotus petals swirling within it, and a huge lotus throne rose from the lake. However, it looked like it had been destroyed, for the petals had fallen off. Yet the lotus throne still had a strange force of attraction which made the petals swirl around it. Meanwhile, in the center of the light, there were weapons colliding with one another like flood dragons. Qin Mu turned and walked along the lakeside. At that moment, peals of laughter came from the lake, and he looked toward the source of the sound to see a couple of girls covered only in veils. They were playing near the lake, and some of them jumped into the water. Others sat on the surface and played around with each other. Qin Mu's eyes lit up, and he took out his brush, ink, paper, and inkstone to start drawing. After a moment, he finished a painting of a lake and girls bathing. It also had the lotus throne. He then jumped into the painting and began to play with the girls there with satisfaction. The painting was erected beside the lake. In it, the youth was as pleased as Punch. He sat on the lotus throne while the girls leaned against it. He hugged them left and right, and even put the extraordinary spirit weapons into his Daotai sack. He was truly at the peak of his life. Light surged on the lake, and suddenly everything disappeared. There seemed to be some huge monster moving under the lake, closing in rapidly. It looked like a small island was moving. Whoosh! The lake split apart, and a huge eyeball jumped out from the water. Flames covered its body, so it was probably an eye of a devil god. Its consciousness could have awakened as time went by, or maybe it had been possessed by some broken soul. Yet what was even weirder was that it had actually grown arms and legs. It had 4 of each. Behind the eye were even 2 pairs of small wings. The creature came to the painting and looked inside, jealousy for Qin Mu growing within it. Cuckoo! The devil eye was beyond excited. Suddenly, it shrunk its body to the size of a face basin and flapped its wings to rush into the painting. It entered with a pop. The moment the devil eye entered the painting, its eye opened up and revealed a huge mouth. It was filled with razor-sharp teeth. Cuckoo! The monster roared. Qin Mu scrambled down from the throne in utter fear and fled for his life. The devil eye was pleased with itself and jumped onto the lotus throne. It pulled the girls to him and embraced them left and right, instantly feeling like it was at the peak of its monster life. Qin Mu jumped out of the painting and wiped away one stroke. The girls and the devil eye monster were instantly fixed in place. What a truly interesting monster. Its abilities are much stronger than mine, but it's a little stupid and doesn't know how treacherous the human heart is. It tried to use treasures and women to tempt me, yet it was enticed by me and delivered itself into the trap. Qin Mu took out his seal and breathed hot mist onto it. He stamped the lower right corner of the painting and sealed it. He then rolled up the paper and placed it in his Daotai sack. The abilities of this monster are no small matter. If I meet an enemy I can't fight, I can release it to fight in my place. Qin Mu continued to walk forward filled with anticipation. If I could find even more ominous objects in this land, I could make great use of them. They are all remarkable treasures. If it was Shingen, he would definitely love this place. Come to think of it, it's been a while since I met him. He finally walked out of the swamp and came to the ruin of a city. There were collapsed buildings everywhere, none of which looked like they had been disturbed in a long time. Shattered bones lined the worn-down street. A cold wind blew by, and broken skulls clattered, rolling around. Suddenly, the street cracked open from a long backbone that rose like a dragon. Its ribs acted as legs that sprinted furiously to attack Qin Mu. The tip of the backbone was a fierce-looking skull which should once been the head of a devil god. Its top was filled with bone spikes without any sign of hair. The resulting creature looked incomparably fierce, and it opened its mouth wide when it pounced over. Qin Mu chose to run. As he did so, he saw a battlefield in front of him where countless skeletons were fighting. All kinds of broken spirit weapons clashed, raising sand and dust. Qin Mu wanted to take a detour, but the huge backbone rose into the sky while stepping on devil fire, so he could only grit his teeth and rush into the battlefield. The moment he did so, he knew it had been a horrible decision. Each skeleton that was extremely strong. The weakest one was not much weaker than him. Thud, thud, thud. The sound of drums rushed through the battlefield when two white-boned giants that were 300 yards tall pulled out thigh bones and shook their heads with excitement. They used their bones to beat the battle drums. Each hit made a noise like thunder, and the skeletons fighting nearby went into an even greater frenzy. Qin Mu rushed through the fighters while sneaking glances at the devil god's skull with backbone which was crashing through everyone to reach him. Wei Liao is here. Mere demons and ghosts, forget about being savage. Qin Mu looked toward the source of the voice and saw 7 Kills Star Sovereign with his battle axe in lead of countless corpses and skeletons. With a loud noise, the new army flooded the battlefield, and wherever they passed by, countless shattered skulls flew into the sky. Wei Liao swung his battle axe and smashed the skull of the devil god chasing Qin Mu. He then shouted out loudly, "Live as a hero, die as a heroic ghost. Eradicate these devils and conquer this ominous land. We're going to become the new rulers here." Qin Mu stared with eyes wide open as Wei Liao led everyone through the battlefield. In no time, bones were lying everywhere while the victorious army was grinning. They chose complete bones on the ground to replace their own shattered ones. Wei Liao walked over in large strides and said, "The ominous land is extremely dangerous, little friend. Let us send you off." Tens of thousands of skeletons and corpses surrounded Qin Mu while rushing toward the east like a flood. Wherever they passed, everything was drowned out. The ominous land was filled with all kinds of strange things. They were mostly strange life forms formed from the grievances or broken souls of divine arts practitioners that had died in the great battle. These life forms were born of the divine arts left behind by the gods and devils, so they were abnormally strong as well as weird and terrifying. It was because the battle had been simply too bitter, and the gods, devils, and divine arts practitioners that had died then were filled with negative emotions which fused with the godly blood, forming the strange place known as the ominous land. The life forms in it also had warped mindsets. During the journey, Qin Mu saw numerous strange objects. There were mountains formed from a mixture of gods and devils' flesh and blood, white-boned centipede with hundreds of heads, and a monster with a dragon's head, horse's body, and a long tail which was entirely of bone. However, no matter how powerful these ominous creatures were, 7 Kills Star Sovereign dealt death to all of them. They were raised by the happy skeleton and corpse army. The vastness of the ominous land was difficult to imagine. Even though the speed of Qin Mu and the rest wasn't slow, they had to walk for over 2 days to reach the border. "Little friend Qin, you just need to head a bit more and you will lead the ominous land. We can't send you any farther than this." Wei Liao stopped and bid farewell in a traditional way. "Farewell for now." Qin Mu returned the greeting. "Farewell for now. After I leave, I will definitely go to Fengdu and ask King Yama if he can find a place for all of you. Everyone, wait for my news." After he said that, he turned to leave. Wei Liao watched him go, then suddenly said loudly, "Little friend Qin, your surname is Qin too. What's your relationship with Founding Emperor?" Qin Mu turned back and waved his hand. "Founding Emperor is my ancestor." No wonder, no wonder. Wei Liao was slightly stunned and followed the figure walking out of the ominous land with his eyes. He then became excited and cheered repeatedly. "My men, let's go, let's conquer this ominous land and rule it. We'll wait for the arrival of Founding Emperor." Countless skeletons and corpses followed him and cheered as they rushed into the depths of the ominous land that was shrouded in devil chi. Qin Mu turned back to look when he left the strange zone. Terrifying vibrations reached him from the ominous land which should have come from 7 Kills Star Sovereign Wei Liao fighting against some new strange creature. Even though they've died once, they still fight lustily, repaying the benefaction of their sovereign as bones. Truly a heroic bunch. He walked towards the east through the darkness. The ominous land would become the territory of Wei Liao, and it would become like a nail stabbed into the heart of the devils. I still remember that Yudu language." Qin Mu blinked. The Yudu language hadn't disappeared from his mind. Could the strangeness of the ominous land still be following him? Not only that, he could even see the door to the other spirit embryo divine treasure. It was still opposite his original one. So I've mastered Yudu language just like that. Now this is weird. He changed once again into Saturn Sovereign, and Gate of Heaven influence appeared behind him. The ancient book appeared again, and he opened it. He silently read page after page, not voicing a single word, and put all of them to memory. After an hour, he memorized the book and dispersed the form of Saturn Sovereign. The Gate of Heaven influence behind him also vanished. I've seen Gate of Heaven influence on the stone statue that was like the Overlord body in Ghost Valley. However, that stone statue was not holding a scroll. Out of all the gods and divine arts practitioners I've seen so far, I'm the only one who has an ancient scroll in my hand when I change into my Saturn Sovereign's form. Qin Mu pondered it for a time, then he suddenly came to a realization. That Overlord body in the underground of Ghost Valley must be like Shushenhua, they are both pseudo-Overlord bodies. Only true Overlord body would have an ancient scroll in their hand. I shall ask village chief about it when I get back. He should know more than me. After he decided that, he threw the matter to the back of his head. Yudu language came from his mouth again, and he chanted the contents of the book as he sprinted east. Devil chi poured toward him and tunneled into the heart of his brows. This made his cultivation of the devil path increase drastically. This time there was no abnormal situation of the dead coming back to life. That should have been due to the usage of the ancient book. Qin Mu relaxed. As long as he didn't take out the ancient book, the Yudu language would remain as a strange cultivation method. He wouldn't have to worry about disrupting Yudu or being chased by the messengers of death. As he ran furiously, the devil chi flocked to him like signal smoke. He didn't look like a divine arts practitioner, but a great devil rushing on his way. Suddenly, he stopped speaking the Yudu language, and the cryptic god language came out from his mouth instead. His devil vitality struck the door of his spirit embryo divine treasure of the devil path. Devil language instantly rang out within his mind, coming from the depths of the 9 springs below. The voice was strange and disrupted his devil vitality, preventing him from breaking through the door. The god language contained a strange power which could contend with the devil language that had suddenly appeared. Back when Qin Mu had opened his spirit embryo divine treasure, he'd heard god language that seemed to come from the 9 heavens above and disrupted his spirit embryo breakthrough. He had then borrowed devil voice and Buddha voice to forcefully break the wall to be able to cultivate his spirit embryo. That time could only be considered luck. Now, he did the same thing again, and his attainments in god language far surpassed what he possessed back then. He used the god language to deal with the devil voice from the 9 springs below, and everything went smoothly and easily. His devil vitality flowed without obstruction and struck the spirit embryo wall. Boom! Explosions as loud as thunder came from his body when the door to the other spirit embryo divine treasure burst open. The cultivation of his devil path instantly grew exponentially and attracted even more devil chi, while the devil voice from the 9 springs below just stopped. There is no spirit embryo of the devil path in this spirit embryo divine treasure. Qin Mu was astonished. His spirit embryo divine treasure of the devil path was empty, with only a spirit platform. Strange runes of the devil path were carved on it. Overlord Body 3 Elixir Technique. Qin Mu executed it, and the devil vitality in his body surged into the spirit embryo divine treasure of the devil path. Light flashed and his spirit embryo suddenly appeared in this spirit embryo divine treasure, sitting on the spirit platform. It started to breath devil vitality in and out. In almost no time, it formed a devil sun and devil moon. Village chief is truly remarkable. The Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique he taught me can also be cultivated for the devil path. Qin Mu was completely in awe of village chief. Silently, he exclaimed in admiration, "When can I have so much knowledge and such wide horizons?" Overlord Body 3 Elixir technique didn't go against the Yudu language that was coming from his mouth. It mobilized devil vitality, and the spirit embryo breathed it in and out. Meanwhile, the Yudu language was leading the devil chi into his body and making his cultivation of the devil path denser and denser. It rose continuously, and not long later, the forms of the devil sun and devil moon in the spirit embryo divine treasure were basically set. They corresponded with the sun and moon of the other spirit embryo divine treasure, looking like mirror reflections. When Qin Mu felt that his cultivation was perfected, he rushed at 5 Elements Divine Treasure, and a loud explosion rang out, signaling the breaking through 5 Elements Divine Treasure. 5 element stars of the Devil Path rose in the sky and flashed with strange devil light. Qin Mu's Overlord Body 3 elixir technique became more and more complicated as he circulated it, and his devil vitality connected to the 5 stars to circulate in a strange way. His cultivation of the Devil Path grew denser and denser. Cultivating at this speed. I'm afraid that in a few days, my cultivation of the Devil Path will catch up to the God Path. A number of experts were searching him, having formed into groups for their hunt. There were also quite a few devil experts that had seen Qin Mu from afar but hadn't paid any attention. They had no idea that the fellow that was even more devilish than them could be the Qin Mu they were searching for. Qin Mu's road had no obstructions as he continued to head east. After walking for some 6-7 days, a spot of light suddenly appeared in the sky. He raised his head and saw that light growing larger and larger, brighter and brighter. A round sun took shape above him and brought some light to the devil territory. Overjoyed, Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief. This sun is round and not flat. Imperial Preceptor is truly remarkable. He looked at the location where the sun was rising and examined his shadow on the ground. He sprinted another 20 miles and calculated the angle of the shadow. I've over 10,000 miles away from where the sun rose. Fu Riluo indeed has remarkable abilities to be able to kidnap me so far away. The sun in the sky was round, and he had the feeling of clouds having parted to reveal clear blue sky. His mood instantly improved. Suddenly, the God City rose in front of him. There were numerous devils walking to and fro around it. Groups of devils and horses searched in all directions, stopping even the devils crossing to check their identity. Qin Mu frowned slightly and decided to take a detour. Yet the clattering of hooves reached him and a group of devils rushed over, having seen him from afar. Halt! Qin Mu stopped, and the rider in the lead looked at him. He then shook his head, saying, "It's not who we're looking for, let's continue." The next moment, he rushed away with the other devil divine arts practitioners. Qin Mu let out a sigh of relief, but a familiar voice came from behind him. "You brat, I still need a retainer. Come here, be my retainer." Slightly stunned, Qin Mu looked toward the source of the voice. He saw a youth carrying a demon knife on his back a short distance away from him. It was none other than Shahuali. Qin Mu walked over, and the demon eye on the hilt of the demon knife suddenly opened. It swelled till it became crimson, then stared at him excitedly. After a moment, the demon eye closed. Shahuali walked over and said, "Follow me." Qin Mu hurriedly did as told, and Shahuali brought him to the east, leaving the God City behind them. There were numerous posts of inspection, but when the devils saw Shahuali, they didn't ask anything. When they were 100 miles to the east of the city, Shahuali stopped and said indifferently, "You can continue to head east." Qin Mu heading forward according to his words. Soon, he felt a pair of eyes landing on his body. Like 2 knives stabbing into him. His muscles went stiff, then twitched twice and shattered the knife will. When it shattered, it actually gave off crisp clinks. "It is you," Shahuali said from behind him. Qin Mu scattered the devil chi around him and said with a smile, "Shahuali, your knife skills have improved a lot." The young man's gaze had been like a knife, which gave Qin Mu no choice but to shatter it. After Li City, Shahuali's knife skills had obviously improved by leaps and bounds. Brother Qin escaping from enveloping city and even surviving the crossing through the ominous land is truly astonishing. After the parting in Li City, I examined your sword skill in detail. Opening Calamity sword skill is truly strong, but I also have my own comprehension, Shahuali said indifferently. I won't let you die in the hands of other people, only I can kill you. All the disciples of the devil gods in Supreme Emperor Heaven are looking for you. Don't die on the way. Much thanks. Qin Mu bowed. Shahuali didn't accept it and just left in a flash. This video will end here.